Good morning, friends. Rich here with you this morning. Coffee and conversation. What I was thinking about this morning while uh, looking at some of my passed down through the generation firearms that I have in my collection was the fact that Remington arms, the mighty Remington arms, actually went out of business, and their assets were sold off to the highest bidders. It's almost unthinkable to me to think about a company as old, revered, respected as Remington could have possibly went belly up, and what could have caused that. The 870 pump shotgun is absolutely the benchmark standard, and it's like, for me, it's Remington, and then it's Mossberg, and they're right there. Everybody else is take a back seat. The Remington 870 is the most number one volume sold shotgun in the world, hands down. We can't even debate that. The 1100, what an amazing shotgun the 1100 is. The 700 series bolt action rifles, who doesn't have one of those, right? You maybe inherited one from a parent, a grandparent, or you bought your own. It's just, how could somebody so mighty fall? Poor management. Well, sometimes profit over quality seems to be a problem. But I think right now, as I review the firearm industry, record sales of firearms, but what firearms are actually selling, right? Not that many 30-06 or 243s, 270s. What's selling? AR-15s. 9mm 380, 40, and 45 caliber handguns. And this is where I think Remington missed the mark. Remington was so solid with their tried and true bolt action hunting rifles and their shotguns, and they had acquired other companies. They had Marlin in their belt, and several others over the years they had acquired. But when it came to today's modern pistols, maybe the AR-15s, no one talked about Remington. It's like, yeah, I got dear old granddad's Remington 12 gauge. That's what you heard. They didn't keep up with the pulse of the industry. They didn't have their finger on the pulse of the market. And when they tried to make something, because they probably financially struggling, they made something cheap. And they thought they could sell it cheap. And because it was cheap, people would buy it. And when it comes to handguns, that's not really the case. You'd rather pay $500, $600, $800 for something that is going to be a good handgun than $210 for something that, well, it works sometimes. So that's where I think Ruger does an amazing job. Ruger has their finger on the pulse of the firearm industries. Innovated, out of the box thinking, fantastic quality firearms at a decent price. And sadly, Remington missed that mark. And now they're gone. It's you may see a Remington 870 shotgun still on the market today, being made by somebody else, whoever acquired the rights to the Remington firearms. They were sold in bunches, like, one company got the ammunition. One company, Sportsman's Den, got the sights. The rifle brand was sold off, except Marlin, to another group, and then the Marlin brand went to somebody else. So they kind of been divided. So you might see, a Remington in the future in your local gun store, new manufactured, but it's not really a Remington. It's like H&R, Harrington Richards. I have some of their older firearms because they were my dad's. And then They were gobbled up, and they changed the name to H&R 1871, I think it is, and they produce Chinese-made shotguns and rifles, and not that they're horrible. I actually have one of the partner pumps made in China, 870 clone, and it's always been a pretty good shooting firearm, but it's nowhere near my father's 1950s H&R shotgun. So it's sad, but I will say this, they did it to themselves. I don't know how many people have been buying ammunition from Remington over the last few years. I quit buying it. It was garbage. I had so many failures with Remington ammunition, especially handgun, that it was absolutely embarrassing. You take that white green box ammo, it was garbage. The 380, the 9mm, the 38 Special, 45 ECP. This was by far the highest amount of failures I ever acquired in anything to do with firearms. It always seemed to be a Remington handgun. They made good shotgun shells. They made good hunting rifle rounds, like the Corlock, for the 30-06 or the 270, 243, 30-30. They made good rifle stuff. They did not make good handgun stuff. And the handgun market is where, the biggest part, self-defense, CCW market's going. And then probably chased by America's favorite rifle, the AR-15, which they completely missed the boat on. So it's a sad day for the firearm industry to see a giant like Remington fall over. And if you have an older Remington, I hope that you'll cherish it. Treat it with the respect it deserved. I myself, I have a couple of Remington. I have a Remington 442 Woodsman 30-06. I have a 700 bolt action 30-06. I have my grandfather's father's Remington Model 10 12 gauge pump, which is the first pump shotgun Remington ever made. I have a Remington 22 bolt action rifle as well. So they'll be treasured, not only because they are what they were, the family heirlooms, but they're also Remingtons, true Remingtons. The last Remington I ever bought was about, I think 8 or 9 years ago. I bought a Remington 870 12 gauge pump for a girlfriend's son who loved it for about 15 minutes, and then he put it out for sale. He was 19 years old. I bought him the gun for his 18th birthday. We turned 19. He had it on Facebook trying to sell it, and I come back like, wait a minute, I bought that gun. It's in my name. What do you want for it? And I bought the gun from him, so it's my gun now. But even if you look at that 870 and compare it to an 870 made in the 80s, 90s, 70s, 60s, you can see where it seemed like the quality was falling off. The stock doesn't look as pretty. The barrel doesn't have that pretty bluing. It's more of a protective coating on it than, say, bluing like the old rifles, shotguns were. So, Remington, it was nice to know you. It was great being part of the hunting heritage that Remington represented. And we'll see you on the used shelf at your local gun store. Till next time, take care of yourself and enjoy your coffee.